Off they go, bags in tow. Matt and Chrissy hit the road. Maps unfold, stories told. Adventures never getting old. Matt and Chrissy roam so free through the city, past the sea, finding joy in every mile.
G'day, it's Matty from Couple of Sitters, and we are nearly done with the floor. We've got the pieces all cut to fit roughly where we need them to be. It's been a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, but I think we've made it work. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown on what the next step is. So we want to make sure that we get this right. In the previous video, we had marked out where the anchor points need to be. So we ran a string line up and back and side to side. And now what we're looking at is tracing that string line with those anchor points over to the top of these pieces of marine ply that we've got, so that we can make sure that we're actually screwing down into the risers inside the body of the vehicle. So I've done the back half here, front half's almost done. It's going to be a two-person job on this one, so I have to get Chrissy to come give me a hand with it. But the interesting thing is, down the back, we didn't take into account that our approach to using the offcuts instead of cutting a completely new piece of timber would require us to then remap the back area for the anchor points there. So I'll spin the camera around and I'll give you a bit of a walkthrough on what we've done. So towards the back here, we've gone for two pieces, and our original intention was to, where that hole is, have a second piece that would be a separate finger hole, lift it up, move it out to be able to get to what's hidden down inside there, because that needs to be accessible. That needs to be loosened off so we can get access to the spare. So you probably don't want to cover something important up like that and then find that you don't have access to your spare tyre when you're stuck out in the bush. So we've got the two pieces at the back here, joining up into the third piece, which, even though there's a bit of space there, that's okay, because we're going to be building a box to go over the top of the wheel arches, particularly on the driver's side. That's where most of the solar is going to go, and we believe the batteries will probably get mounted, one of them at least, into that box. If we can fit the two up there, that'd be fantastic. And then we've got our other two main pieces of ply here and our inspection hatch, which what I'll need to do is measure up and recut that piece of timber. So I won't use that one as the final piece. We'll get a clean piece that'll be in there. And that way we've got no little screw holes and notches, and that'll all be tidy. We've taken into account the rise in the middle of the vehicle here. So the engine sits just underneath that. By the time we've backfilled most of that, we're going to use some extra bits of insulation and other bits and pieces to get that level. We'll then be able to run a bit of 2mm ply over the top, and then we'll sort of scree it back onto the timber, and then we can laminate directly over the top of that. But around the edges, once we've screwed this down, we're just going to use a silicone sealant to fill in as much of that as possible, and then we'll be putting the walls up. We'll bead down along that, and the walls will go up after the vinyl goes down, so we'll make sure that all of the electrics are done too. So that's where we're at the moment with this. Based on the research that we've done, we're going to be using metal screws because they've got a decent amount of thread on them and it's close enough to be able to work with the thin panels that we have. These are countersunk, and they're also, I believe, capable, looking at the ends of them, of pretty much being self-tapping. So we'll drill our guide holes going through the timber to take the pressure off the screws, and then they can just finish up and cut into the panel and we'll be right to go. So They're not anything special really. It's just it's a Zenith metal screw that's a countersunk head. We didn't want a head that wasn't countersunk because we're going to be laminating over the top of this. We want a nice smooth finish. So drill the pilot holes, countersink those, and then we'll drop the screws in onto that too. But first up, we're going to measure out and map the rest of the areas that we're going to be drilling into. So we'll see in a minute. Okay, so we've marked out all of the dots on the van. There are a couple of areas where we're going to need to anchor some supports underneath some of these panels because they sit close to the back, and there's just that little bit of a lip where it doesn't have quite enough support for my liking. So even though we've got anchor points towards the front of the van on these panels, they're probably a little bit disproportionate because of the length of the size of the panel to how much support there is lacking underneath. So we've got some 12mm marine ply that we're going to use underneath, and we'll just screw that to the timber that's on top. What we are also going to do, just having a chat with Chris, and she reckons it's a good idea for us to be able to use the existing floor surface that was on here before as another layer underneath the marine ply. Now that'll go, we'll have to trim some of the fat off the edges because there's a couple of areas where it sort of sits up against the wheel arches and stuff like that, which we don't really want. So I'm going to pull all of the timber out. I'm going to grab that flooring, put it back in here, and just come along with a Stanley knife and cut the edges of the flooring back, because otherwise it's just going to get thrown out anyway. And then we'll put that down so that we can then have the marine ply sit on top of that original vinyl and insulated flooring. It's just like a little insul fluff sort of mix underneath it. So that'll hopefully improve the sound deadening and also improve the quality of the warmth. Quality of the warmth. Warmth has quality apparently. Our experience. It'll improve the quality of our experience, we hope. So if it doesn't, no big loss. It was going to get thrown out anyway. We probably won't know whether it does or doesn't because we're just going to put it down and give it a crack, see how it goes. So that's the next step.